we want it to end, right? Everybody wants it to end. We're all done, tired, all of our money getting literally eroded away from us. Everybody sick and tired of that now?
Yes, indeed.
Great, because here's the deal. A nuclear bomb went off in technology and progression. It's called blockchain. What that is a secure, transparent, decentralized, and tamper-resistant way to move value and securitize data. Now, up until this point, that power has been centralized into the very hands of the people that hate us the most. And what happens when they have control over the money flows? Well, they can shut you off, like they can with foreign nations, by seizing assets and kicking them out of something called the SWIFT system. Now, the SWIFT system is how these nations transact with each other all throughout the world. And it's basically a system of emails. That's just a good way to put it, all right? Now, a couple of years ago, the Biden administration kicked out Russia from the SWIFT system, meaning that they cut them off from transacting, meaning that, and they seized their foreign reserves. Now, we, the United States, is the reserve currency holder. We're the bank in monopoly. And they literally print the money, which is why all of our lives suck. So, and it's been going on since 1913. It got worse in 44 at the Bretton Woods meeting. And we've been over the cliff ever since 1971 when they officially cut the link to gold with the dollar. And ever since then, we've had all of our manufacturing move offshore because guess what? These other places, they can totally devalue their currency against ours, which means all of our manufacturing, they can just have their slave labor do all this manufacturing. That's why I call it dystopian risk, because that's all it is. Him and I were talking earlier, and I was explaining to him about, like the story of Vietnam, or the story of Iran. Let's take Iran, for instance. We just struck them recently. Now, if you go back to the history of Iran, which is right there, why is that important? We have a big trade lane, and they produce oil, and the Strait of Hormuz, very strategically important, because a lot of oil flows through there. And a lot of it, about 40% or so, goes to China. And, with their Belt and Road Initiative, they're trying to create new trade lanes and develop the Mid-Asian corridor. So, history of Iran. Let's take that for an example. They had a democratically elected government under Mohammad Mossadegh. This was after World War II. And he was planning on nationalizing the oil. Their resources, their people, should be taking the yields from their resources. But British Petroleum didn't want that. So what they do? They called up Eisenhower and Churchill, and they sent in their intelligence operatives to overthrow Mossadegh. Now, let's stop the nationalization. They put in the Shah, and, it was a bit Western, great, but he was highly repressive. And what does that do to a people when you repress them? When you throw them in prison without charge, trial, anything? Rebellion foments, especially when religion's involved. So by 1978, it got so bad that the Ayatollah took power, took our hostages. It was a big thing. And ever since then, we've had a lot of tension between that nation and ours. What's the lesson? The lesson here is this is what happens when you meddle in the foreign affairs of another nation. And you put into power something that is far worse than what the other would have been. So it was a democracy. We're supposed to, pretend that we're supporting democracies. No, it's only about the democracies that align with us and our motives and whatever corporate interests that are involved. It's dystopian risk, and it's been going on. You can talk about this very same thing in Cuba, Bosnia, Congo, everywhere around the world this has been going on ever since World War II. And why is that? If you peel back all the layers, it goes back to this very issue of money. Who's making it? Who's doing it? Who's financing all of this? And it needs to stop. So the nuclear bomb that went off is blockchain, because you can settle outside of the system. And the system is fractional reserve banking, wherein you deposit, say, 10 grand with the bank, they keep 1,000, loan out 9. You go to pull out 10, well, it's not there, really. And this system keeps going on. And without transparency, that's where fraud comes in. And fraud is what's being used to finance a lot of dark shit in our world. So, we have an answer to ending this stupid cockamamie system that is literally putting all of us at each other's throats, all throughout the world. Risk of World War III, and a lot of very evil stuff. The rape of children, for instance. You know how that happens? That happens because of all of these trade lanes. That happens because of all of the movements of money to facilitate these very horrible things. No, it's a bit vague, but we have to end the fraud. The fraud is the problem. The CIA makes money through that. So does every other intelligence agency all throughout the world. But if you cut them off, you stop this, you take your value out of their system, it collapses. It is a Ponzi scheme. It requires more participants in it every year. Just think about our national debt. It's $37 trillion. And it must keep going up in order to pay back what you borrowed today plus the interest that you owe on it. So, if you start removing value from their system, it collapses. And this is already happening all throughout the world. The BRICS nations are coming together, and they are trading between themselves, and they're dumping dollars. They're not settling in dollars anymore via the SWIFT system. That's what keeps the dollars in circulation. It's a trust. And the trust is eroding now, and more value is coming out of the system and settling outside of it. And we are in the last phases of this. So, this nuclear bomb, where people can settle outside the system without any control over where it goes. They can't shut you off. They can't seize your reserves. They can't do anything because it's decentralized. It's spread out all throughout the world. Now, store of value is real-world assets. Units of account, that's what we consider money. Method of payment, well, that's just the platform, okay? Means of exchange, that's your intermediary. So, when you have store of value, what happens when you tokenize it? Well, it becomes liquid. Because tokenization means you take a real-world asset, something that's real, it's physical, it's tangible. You create a digital token of it, and because it is on a blockchain, a distributed ledger network system, everyone can see who's trading that at the international scale. Bullion banks, for instance, they keep getting caught naked short selling. They keep getting caught printing out more paper shares than the physical to back it up. It's basically the central banks, but on a different scale. They get caught, they pay the fine, and the ban plays on. Nothing ever changes.
Vincent, I'm sorry,
Sure.
I just want to jump in on a question. Is the same thing happening with gold and silver?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. It's been and that's the bullion banks
Right.
that are doing that. And it's happening in the stock market as well.
Paper.
GameStop, everybody remember that?
Yeah.
The whole GameStop saga? It's coming from this. It's coming from this system of trust that we've had to outsource to these institutions that are distrusted. But with blockchain, It gets rid of all that. It creates a trustless system. We don't put this into human hands anymore. So when you tokenize an asset, and it is transparent how it's moving, it's secure, it's decentralized, tamper resistant, multiple sources are recording the transaction and its movement, it becomes liquid when you tokenize it. And what happens when it's liquid? It can move now. So instead of taking this gold bar that's in this one location, and then you're printing out these paper shares of it, now you can say, okay, this thing has a SKU now. It has an actual token that we can actually sell to someone else, and it's trusted it now. Yes, I own that physical gold bar that I happen to be custodying right now. I'm holding it. There's the token. I'm just going to hold it. I need quick capital, which is just money, to raise for whatever I'm about ready to do. Central Bank of England, for instance, they're the ones that seized Russia's $400 billion, and between them and us, and that's not the first time they've done it. World War I, when the Bolsheviks took power, the Russian gold that is now supposed to be the Bolshevik gold, they didn't give it to them. They said, no, we don't recognize that election. We don't recognize any of that. See how this puts all of that value into the hands of this small group of people making decisions for other nations. Now, no one agrees with communism or Bolshevism or anything else. My own grandfather was a partisan against them in Yugoslavia. Went to a communist prison camp for it. So, dystopian risk. We end the Fed by settling outside the system, we collapse it. By ending fraud. And the laws are getting passed in order to allow this system to come into fruition. So Genius Act outlined what it is a stablecoin consists of, and what an issuer must do in order to issue out that unit of account. So build in your mind, okay, there's another company, an issuer, that's issuing out a unit of account that's on a distributed ledger that's taking transactions away from the central bank. And this needs more transactions to remain in circulation, and they use force to keep it into circulation. Look at Gaddafi in Libya. You know what he wanted to do? He wanted to do a North African gold reserve. What happened? We sent in, yeah, he was killed. Do you know why? Because we funded the rebels in Libya, and we sent them all the guns. Hillary Clinton was a part of that, in order to overthrow that government. It wasn't for, him being a tin-pot dictator. No, it's because he was threatening the system. Saddam Hussein wanted to do the same thing in the Middle East. Gone. Several other leaders around the world wanted to break this. Putin and BRICS, after they kicked Putin out of the SWIFT system, the rest of the world had it. They're going to something else. And they are clearly shifting it right now. The rate of trade between China and Russia and settling in dollars has gone dramatically down. The dollar has lost 40% of its value in 1 year. And that's already on top of the 100 years worth of inflation, worth of taking away your money, mine, my family's. How do they keep it in force? Well, they have something called legal tender status that's granted to the unit of account that the Federal Reserve has, giving them a monopoly on money. But now think about this. Genius Act's bringing on these issuers. Clarity Act is allowing these to be deployed. And anti-CBDC says the central banks can't play. With the central banks, you are in the SWIFT system. That takes 3 to 4 days to settle. for you to get your money. What can happen in those 3 to 4 days? Well, a natural disaster, that can surely screw up the exchange rates. When you go and say you want to exchange your dollars for Deutschmarks, say there's a natural disaster, that can mess up the exchange rate, which means the value transmission, it has lost its integrity. What else can happen throughout those 3 to 4 days? Well, we could do a sanction against that country, in which case, well, your money might be tied up in limbo. Who knows what might happen to it? So now that the Genius Act is coming up, clarity needs to get passed for these to be used. And anti-CBDC means they can't play and update their system. So why would you keep settling in central bank notes when they're unelected, unaccountable? They literally print out the money. Towering $37 trillion worth of debt between them and Congress. Congress wouldn't be able to spend what they're spending if they didn't have the money printer. If it wasn't there, it couldn't happen. They would only be able to spend what they bring in. It's called taxes. And we all agree that taxation without representation is one of the reasons why we started our country. They don't ever vote on what the interest rate should be. And how do they keep this in force domestically? Something called the Internal Revenue Service. Now, my family, after I ran for committeeman, for what I wrote in the paper underneath Obama's administration, Loretta Lynch testified in open Congress, yeah, we did target conservative groups. I don't know if my family was really caught up in it, but the house is gone. Dad went insane because of them, because of this system, and it needs to end. And we have the opportunity to settle outside of it, remove the value from it, and you collapse it. The rest of the world's already doing it. We can't be last at the table. So, how do we do this, Vinny? What the fuck are you talking about? You have a wallet, don't you? The wallet holds value. It's administered by a company who has an insurance policy, compliance, liability. They have to compete with others. You can do a transaction between wallet to wallet. Did you ever touch a bank? Did you remove that value from them? Yes, you did. Thus, the Ponzi starts to collapse. And that's what we're on the cusp of right now. They're trying to paper over it. The arc of history is upon us because of this nuclear bomb that went off and being able to settle outside of it for sovereign nations and for sovereign people. So, how does this relate to Ripple? Now, when I got drafted to go to Vegas with a bunch of other, people that just they don't give a shit about this. They just want their clout. They just want their money. They don't care about ending this damn thing. They weren't affected by it. So after studying all this, reading about it, talking about Austrian economics, who were the correct ones, Ludwig von Mises, Henry Hazlitt, Friedrich Hayek, even going back to Friedrich Bastiat reading the law. Keynes was wrong. The only thing that happened because of modern monetary theory is this highly concentration of evil that we have pervading our nation and all of our transacting because of it. You put that power in their hands every single time throughout history. It is a graveyard of fiat currencies, going all the way back to the Chinese, who originally invented it. Roman Empire, you know what they did? They started clipping coins, send it out to everybody else. You know what they did with the extra? Funded war and welfare, bread and circus, keep the Roman Empire expanding. And by the time those coins went out to the Middle East traders, they started weighing them. They're like, wait a minute, man, you fucking owe me a little bit more. That's inflation. That's what's happening with your money, only invisible. Because it's digital. They're highly fraudulent. So, with secure, transparent, decentralized, tamper-resistant, distributed ledgers, that means multiple sources of recording the transactions all transparently, the game ends. The game ends. And we settle outside the system and you collapse it. You can do your transactions wallet to wallet, sovereign nation to sovereign nation, sovereign person to sovereign person. It's about removing value from the Ponzi scheme. To end this shit, the series of coups, the series of black propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, all of these government programs and think tanks and everything else, they rely on the money printer being in force. That is why they're doing it, to keep these nations taking the dollar, taking it. And if they don't want to take it, well, they're going to have a coup. It's only just a matter of time before they really piss somebody off. So, getting the Clarity Act passed is the most important thing we can do to begin settling outside of the system, removing value from it, and collapsing it. Now, with Ripple, they built this financial system. I could go back to Vegas, and I went up to him and I said, okay, did Ripple build a financial system? Meaning,
real quick, yeah. He talked to David Schwartz, who is the CTO of Ripple, the XRP ledger.
Former CTO.
he just stepped down
That's
today.
correct.
New board member.
Yeah, new
board.
That's correct. At a XRP Las Vegas event.
Yep. A bunch of other influencers there, and they had every opportunity to ask this question. I don't know if they're dumb or they just don't care, they just want to get the picture. I have no idea. All I know is I need to get this answered from the man himself that designed it. Is what Ripple built a financial system? Meaning, stores of value backing units of accounts issued from competing issuers. That means you're introducing competition of money. Over a decentralized method of payment, that's the XRPL, where no one can shut you off, through a means of exchange, XRP, settling in 3 to 5 seconds. I said, yes, you can consider those things a financial system. No shit! So that means we can get out of this. Have wallet, will transact. We have a full developed means of doing so. So what happens when you introduce competition of money and its issuance? Well, these issuers, these companies that are issuing out these stable coins, they have to compete in the market. That means they must maintain trust. They can't break it. They're not unaccountable. Oh, they're very accountable. They're in the market. They're in the trenches. Because if they fuck up, guess what happens? People start dumping their units of account and go to somebody else. Therefore, they lose market share. It's not good for a company to lose market share. And this takes value from the central banks. You can do it faster and with no fees, or next to nothing in fees. Think how many times you have a fee. You go to Venmo, you deposit it in your bank account. How much they take? 2-3% every single time. Cash App, same thing. Apple Pay, whatever, some other ones. And go to the ATM. What, $3.50 every transaction that you pull out money? So this reduces friction. These are the fees of friction. This occurs as well at the international scale, whenever you're transferring money. They keep taking these fees, these little bites, so the integrity of the value transmission is reduced. So, why would they continue to use this old system versus one that settles near instantly with next to nothing in cost? As a company, hell, that sounds like a great idea. I remember when I was an analyst in in a billion-dollar company, if I could find a way to save millions of dollars by just switching to Geico, you know, you do it. Just because, hey, you want to get that promotion. You want to keep, you know, your own lifestyle going. So, having them banned from participating in this digital economy is the most important part of this entire thing. We're covered right now under an executive order by the Trump administration. So, he banned the central bank from issuing out a digital currency, which means they can't compete. They can't compete. And these other companies, as issuers, are going to absorb all that market share in order to transmit value. And when you remove that value from the current system, put it into this new one, the thing collapses. It hyperinflates. And we're on the cusp of it right now because of that nuclear bomb that went off. And nobody's talking about it. I'm not sure if anybody even understands it. You know, I've just been yelling at the fucking boys saying, hey, people, look at this. You understand? Like, this is crazy. So, back to dystopian risk. Central bank, Federal Reserve, United States, has a series of central banks all around the world as partners. They all work together. They all orchestrate this entire mess that we're in. Because they all want to keep their own scams going. Look how much Doge has just uncovered. Look at the USAID money. So the USAID money, remember, it wouldn't have come into existence had we not been printing it in the first place. This excess cash, we got to figure out what to do with it. Well, we'll put it towards that. We can. They put journalists on the payroll to warp all of our minds. That's how corrupt the system is. How corrupt it is. George Soros, that guy, he made an NGO to get a grant to then use our money to put these DAs in these cities that don't enforce the law. It's our money that's doing this, that they're printing up. All we got to do is leave. That's it. As soon as these laws are passed, as soon as this shit's deployed, just leave. And we have the means of doing so. So I'm just here to provide voice to that. I don't know if you guys have had enough yet of this system.
Fuck yeah.
You guys feel it? You guys are young, man.
Yeah.
What was it like during COVID? You?
Terrible.
Terrible?
Yeah.
Couldn't go anywhere? The government told you not to go places, right?
I mean, everything was closed.
Everything was closed. What would you think if I told you that all those narratives were paid for by your money? Because now it's all false. We all know it now. It's all false. All of it was. It's our money that paid for it. The only way it was possible because of that. When you talk about the CIA, the only way they got their budgets because of this. And all the cooing that they do around the world, all their foreign intel ops, all their support of these militia groups. You know, the Mujahideen in Afghanistan in the 80s. CIA went in because they were fighting the Soviets at the time. And it's the graveyard of empires. I don't know why anybody goes in there. Alexander didn't win. British didn't win. Soviets didn't win, but we're going to win. No. CIA went in and started radicalizing them. How? They used their own. Here's a few passages of your holy book to go fight the Soviets. Go for it. Which they keep recurring these things. They keep using our most sacred text against us. Doesn't matter what religion it is. They don't care, as long as the ends justify the means. And then the Mujahideen morphed into what? Al-Qaeda. This keeps happening and happening because these money flows are being directed. Here's another one. Okay, so Congress didn't want to fund the Contras in Nicaragua and Central America. I think it was Nicaragua. Anyway, what did the CIA do to raise the money? They started trafficking drugs into Los Angeles. Cocaine, crack, causing the crack epidemic. And it's just black people, but they don't care. And they realize that, well, you know, we can just play on the narratives that have been existing for years. And they did. And that's how they raised their money. Because they wanted to fight communism. It wasn't about that. It's about what products were they producing down there. Ever heard of the Banana Wars? Turn of the century? Wasn't the first time we got involved in Central America. We went down there during then for United Fruit Company to secure trade lanes, to secure products, to secure all this stuff, to keep them in the system of leverage. Dystopian risk. So what happens when you decentralize the reserve? What happens when everybody can transact without leverage? Well, it forces you to be a little bit more harmonious with your neighbor, doesn't it? I can't force you to do anything. I have to actually be kind to you. I have to actually form an alliance with you. Okay, I need this from you. Here's what I got. Let's trade. Instead, what it is now, what it's been for the last 60 years, oh, you're not going to do that? Well, we're going to cut you off. You're not going to be able to transact. We're going to isolate you diplomatically. And if that doesn't work, we're going to launch a coup in there. Doesn't matter how many civilians are killed. As long as you're out of there, and we can get what we want. It's a big card game. And a little bit of chess as well. So, with these issuers that are issuing out money, for all intents and purposes, it's money. Stablecoins are money. It's a unit of account, something to which we can settle in. That's the solution, introducing this competition in money. To take that power away from the central bank, to settle outside of legal tender. And at that point, legal tender, well, it's up for debate. What is legal tender at that point if nobody's settling in dollars and Federal Reserve notes? Thus undermining the note is undermining the issuer itself. Now, XRP, as the money processor, the intermediary, the means of exchange, say I want to pay one of you in RLUSD, but you don't want that. You want Circle for whatever reason. How are we going to bridge this divide? XRP converts it. So you pay into XRP, I would pay into XRP, and send you the XRP that you then pull down in Circle. It's a money processor. It processes the money. It's the means of exchange. And the higher the price it is, the more transactions, their volume, their frequency it can handle. That is the entire concept of this thing being deployed at scale. This is our task. This is what I see as our task, at least. Get rid of the Fed, put competition into money, settle between each other without any leverage. And then, well, how are they going to collect taxes? Whether something has to be legal tender. Why can't the government, and they're already under, and all of my research on these reforms that have been done under the Trump administration, they're already ready to start doing this. The reforms that have been done have all been about efficiency. It's all been about growth and fostering innovation in our nation. So, they're ready to put these techs in. That's why 100,000 federal workers resigning this morning, they didn't bet an eye at it. They don't care. They put the reforms in, but if you looked at the budget that they put up, they just shuffled money around. That's it. They didn't drop the spending levels. Why? To undermine that. Because in an era of de-dollarization, why would you keep spending levels as high as they are? Why would you want to drop interest rates? And here's how taxes and interest rates work. It's a way to bring back in those units of account in an elastic money system, a fiat monetary system, which is supposed to keep the trust. That's why this battle going on between Trump and Powell, according to modern monetary theory, is correct. Keep interest rates higher for longer. Why? To draw in back those dollars. To keep the trust. He wants them to drop while maintaining spending levels. This is insanity. What's the object of the game here? While this is going on, it is to literally hyperinflate this away and force people to go to something they can trust. Something that retains value. Something that a unit of account backed by a basket of stores of value, that means it's linking it to the real world through tokenization. And when it's tokenized, it's liquid. So if there's any instability in the underlying assets that's backing the unit of account, they can change it on a dime. Say gold goes through the floor, and well, your unit of account's backed by all the gold, and you have to maintain compliance, meaning you can trade in your token for that gold. Well, you just change what comprises the backing to the unit. And with tokenization, we've done like that. A few keys of a button. Done. You're all compliant again. There's no instability. Because you have an issuer who's maintaining a trust and a compliance. So this is an entirely new ecosystem. It is a financial system. Now, I'm done ranting for a little while. Anybody got questions? Don't be afraid, man. It's all good. Go for it.
The real world asset
Yes.
accountability, the third party monitoring, auditing, how trustworthy is that?
Well, that's a good question. So the issuer has to produce an audit, okay? And we also have custodians. The custodians hold the actual real world asset. They're the ones that produce the token that the issuer can then buy to collateralize their unit of account. So it all goes back to this custodian. Who's this going to be? So far, Ondo, they've been doing it right now with tokenized treasury bills. And that's US government debt. And all of the audits that I have seen, yes, it is 1-to-1 for what they have accumulated in tokenized treasuries for what is in circulation as a representation of it. Now, I had a question the other day. Okay, why are we going to settle in the stablecoin when we can just settle in the tokenized asset? Well, you settle in the stablecoin because the issuer maintains a basket of things that are backing it. So in the case of any instability and you're still holding that stablecoin, they can just swap it out really quick. Maintain compliance, maintain the value of it. But if you're just holding the asset that just went through the floor, you're screwed. So it makes sense to hold the stablecoin versus the actual tokenized asset. But you can do both. Both of them puts us on the asset monetary system in this digital space. So that is a great question, and regardless, it's better than this thing that we're using that's just backed by trust.
Right.
Trust from the Federal Reserve System, trust from all of that. If you're just holding Federal Reserve notes, man, you are so exposed to all this. You're not growing at the rate of inflation, the rate they have to print in order to pay off the interest payments that we got for our debt. And it keeps going up every single year. Every single year. It's designed to. It's baked in. It cannot be paid off. Because they need to keep this system going. But with this nuclear bomb going off, it's ending. Technology has changed. Things can be linked back to the real world instead of trust. No. You put it on this ledger, everybody can look at it, and you say to yourself, well, okay, I trust this guy, and you're just asking me, just trust me, bro? Nah, sorry. You just go with this other one, and you start settling in that because it's linked back to the real world. And that puts a limit on these issuers, puts a limit on these custodians, puts a limit on the government that takes it in. The central bank doesn't. So that's, in layman's terms, what's really going on around here. We have to get out of it. We have to. It's backed by nothing but fraud. They're unelected, and they steal from us every single second of the day.
100%. Let's go over there.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
hogging, sorry.
Hell, you're fine.
There you go. Okay, so Vinny, why XRP, why not Ethereum, why not Algorand, why not?
I got it confirmed from the guy himself. Now, which one of those companies built that is my question.
Right.
Which one of those companies can settle as fast as XRP can? 3 to 5 seconds. Which one of those companies has a ledger that's totally decentralized, a platform, a method of payment, versus all those others? I mean, I've looked at them too, and dude, I can't even begin to compare it at this point. And with Ripple, they make all these partnerships and make all these acquisitions. Why? Well, they're driving demand after the laws are passed for the use of their technology. That's why they bought Hidden Road, which does $4 trillion worth of transactions itself. After these laws are passed, what are they going to do? They're going to settle those transactions, most of them, what they can, in this old ass system or something super fast, super secure. Cuts cost. It just makes complete sense when you think about it in this business sense. Go for it, man.
So we were talking about how we consider Bitcoin digital gold. So would you say that Bitcoin is a solid way to hedge against the system to protect yourself? I know you're XRP.
With Bitcoin, you only need 2 questions. Who is Satoshi? Where are the bags? How is it not just a clandestine, dirty financial bomb? Blockchain was discovered, invented, whatever, by the cryptographic team at the NSA in 1985 or so, mid-80s. They had think tanks. They knew what this actually means when you could securitize data and data flows like this. So Bitcoin comes around the great financial collapse, great financial crisis. And it starts soaking up a lot of these dollars. Now, early Bitcoin used for all criminal networks. And then, now you got these salesmen out there saying, oh, it's a store of value, it's a store of value, it's a store of value. Well, what is a store of value? A store of value must be accepted not only cross-border, but cross-culturally. Gold is a store of value. Why? Every single culture recognizes its value, holds it, uses it. It has an industrial purpose. What does Bitcoin do? Can it settle transactions as fast as this? No. Does it, is all of its hash power, where's that located at? Well, most of that's offshore. A lot of it's in China. And what does that mean? Its hash power is it's computing, okay? How can they make these blocks? So Bitcoin had a fork, all right? There was as it was being developed, there was an argument that broke out. Okay, are we going to do big blocks of transactions or are we going to do small blocks of transactions? Well, the small blocks won. Van der Leer, or I forget his name, is actually in prison off Mallorca right now by the Spanish government. He wanted to do bigger blocks of transactions. Why? To speed up the settlement of the system. So that way it could be a money. It's speed that they want. Because right now the current system is 3 to 5 days. XRP drops it down to 3 to 5 seconds. How long does it take for a Bitcoin transaction to go? Could be a couple hours. It's too long. It's too long. When other technology exists that's faster, that's far more decentralized. And when the hash power is all located in China, they can just cut it off and say, okay, no more hash power. But they already banned crypto mining. They say they did. I mean, we'll see what their words are worth. Not sure if they actually did. That could be just the Chinese Communist Party's edicts to the rest of the world while they're still mining. So who's Satoshi? No one knows. Could it be that they are using this thing as a liquidity sink to soak up dollars, just like interest rates draw back dollars, just like taxes draw back dollars from the system? Could be. I mean, at this stage and where we're at in our republic, we cannot really take these things on faith anymore. Who created it and why? And he has this massive bag out there. So he owns like almost 1 million Bitcoin. So this shadowy figure, all of a sudden, Bitcoin starts infecting pensions, state funds, treasuries, all around the world. And then Satoshi comes up and says, do X, Y, and Z, or I will dump this bag on the market. And what happens when that happens? Everything goes down. Hurts everyone. Destroys lives. A third-dimensional attack. That's what I see with Bitcoin, because we don't know who Satoshi is and where that bag is. So, we look at something like this, that I got confirmed by the guy himself that made it. Hey, stores of value from competing backing units of account issued by competing issuers over a decentralized method of payment through a means of exchange. Dude, it just makes so much sense. Okay, so after these laws go effective, we can really start transacting in this system and collapse the old one by extracting value from it. Everybody tracking where I'm going with this? Mm-hmm. And when does that happen? So after these laws get passed, why aren't we asking our companies to pay us in the thing that's linked to the real world? Why aren't we asking for that instead of dollars? And by the way, when you send it to one of your friends to buy beer or whatever the hell, it's no fees to pull it down. So you maintain your integrity of your value transmission. That adds up over time throughout your entire year. How much money do you think you waste on fees just in this slow-ass system? Hundreds of dollars. Hundreds, thousands, depending. That's your work. That's gone. That's went to no one but these parasites that keep taking on every single movement of the money. And then you got to compete with the government who taxes you on every single movement of the money. Not with this. Not with this. So you starve the system of value and you collapse it. And that's what I think the task is. The rest of the world's already doing it. You don't have a choice. It's all about choosing the best one to use. What's going to cut the most cost? What's going to settle the fastest? That's what this is. That's what this is. So, any questions, anybody? Maybe how to de-dollarize yourself. Start transacting in the system. You have you have a wallet. Hey, who has a wallet in here? How many transactions do you use with it?
0.
It's not moving.
No,
I
I basically use it for most things because I was essentially debanked recently. I'm from Canada, so I put like 2,000 in, and they said, oh no, yeah, there's some like reason they took out like 75% of it, and I asked them why, and they're like, call this number, call that number, call this number, so.
Yeah,
I'm
Canada's
basically,
fucked.
As much as I can, all crypto.
Yeah, Canada's fucked.
Yeah, Canada's really fucked. Like honestly, it's crazy when Americans tell me, oh, you're so lucky to live in Canada. I'm like,
No, I don't think anybody's saying that now. I don't think anybody's saying that now. No one wants to live
Those are
there.
the people that want to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah. What, I'm sorry.
Those are the people that say that want to be taken care of.
Yeah.
By the
Yeah.
government.
Yeah. And the thing is, so you guys locked value out of the system. Great. That's the first step. You took value out of the system. Second step is now you're going to be transacting through it. So after these laws go live, and we can start getting paid, and then paying our creditors in these stable coins, reduces the usage of dollars. All of these dollars. Yeah.
Vince, this is gonna be a dumb question for the room probably.
That's all right.
Old guy here. How does this, I don't understand how if you own XRP, what role do stablecoins play? How does it
Okay.
all play together?
Sure.
And, you know, I know the, cold storage versus the Xamarin Wallet. I'm still trying to figure that piece out and
Yeah,
move it
sure.
all. So if you can just give me the one-on-one on that, I'd appreciate
All right,
it.
so now we have these issuers, they're all competing.
Yeah.
They're all producing their own units of account, and each issuer is a different level of trust. They have a different level of market share. Now you have to decide, which stablecoin do you want to use?
Right.
Do you want to use the stablecoin that's backed by US government debt, or do you want to use the stablecoin that's backed by real world assets? It's a no-brainer. You wanted to use the one that's backed by real world assets. Why? Because it's not US government debt, which is being sold on the open market and dumped by all these sovereign nations. So you are exposed if you only use the stablecoin that's backed by US government debt. But if you are using the stablecoin that's backed by a basket of real world assets, that has a good issuer, that can respond to market instability in a second, that's what we want to do. But I, on the other end, may not want that stablecoin for my own reasons. You're selling into XRP
It converts.
into me, and I pull it down and convert it to what I want. And it's these deep pools of liquidity to keep these systems going. So that's why when I say it is a one gumball in the gumball machine of XRP, that's the best way to think about it. XRP is the gumball machine itself. Think of the bubble as the XRPL. Everything that has a trust line on it is the gumballs. So the trust line is the stablecoin, is the CBDC, is the tokenized asset. And once all those are on there, moving, creating transactions, that's exactly what necessitates XRP going up. Because how much I have to pay you in XRP goes down. Say you want to send $100,
Yep.
and XRP is only worth $1. I have to do that transaction 100 times. Doesn't make any sense. But if XRP is worth $100, I don't have to do that transaction once. But that doesn't make sense, because that swallows up the whole network. Nobody else can transact for that space of time. However, if XRP is worth $1,000, what happens now? Only 1/10 of the system is being taken up by that transaction at that moment of time. This is the concept of this. This is what makes it the decentralized reserve. That the entire world could use this to draw from, to have these deep pools of liquidity, trading and transacting. Every gumball in the machine is just another sovereign nation that says, we've had it with that bullshit, we're gonna make our own, we're gonna put it in this damn thing, and we're gonna keep transacting in it. And we wanna settle in our own, because we don't wanna hold the reserve currency of the world anymore and be beholden to them and dystopian risk, because we're holding their dollars. Oh shit, we better do what they say. That's the problem. That's the problem. It always goes back to money. What is the unit of account? What are you using? What are you holding? When you hold your own and you settle in your own, there's no leverage over you. You are sovereign again, and not subordinate to the holder and the issuer of the world reserve currency. It's a corrupt system, and the defenders of it, they will hide behind all of these institutional arguments, appeals to authority, everything else, when they don't understand that these are humans that are in charge of these things, that can be leveraged, that can be blackmailed, that can get caught with child porn, and then, oh, now I own you. You have to do what I say, or else I'm going to expose you. That's what Epstein was. That's what Diddy was. Why didn't they go down? Why haven't we had disclosure? Because that information's being used right now against them to keep this silly shit going. It's a corrupt system, man. It's very evil. And a lot of people have paid for it. The January 6th people, guess what? 275 federal agents were in that crowd that opened up those doors, magnetic doors. Why'd they do it? To cover up for the stolen election, mail-in ballots. Why'd they do that? Well, they had to stop them. That's what they said. They had to stop them because of this reordering of trade, because of the bringing back of manufacturing here, and Ripple was one of the ones on the way out. Guess who they targeted? Ripple. Because it's the actual threat to that stupid thing. To this thing that we're all trapped by using legal tender. Yeah.
So what did you mean, like, sending like a stablecoin backed by real world assets? Like, because I believe the Genius Act is like just cash and T-bills right now. Is that correct?
That is not correct.
No.
It said highly liquid assets. What happens when something's tokenized? It's now liquid because it can move. It has a large market of buyers and sellers. That's all that something requires to be liquid. Is there a huge market for it? There's always a market for gold. And if it's tokenized, now it can move. Now it has speed. So now it's a highly liquid. And in the law, highly liquid assets. They're saying it. And they're not going to spell it out like this. They're not going to tell you. They're going to let you all fucking burn. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Ripple's connections to the PayPal mafia, like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk?
I don't focus on that type of stuff. Yeah, I really don't.
You don't?
And the reason why, I'm focused on the technology.
Yeah.
I'm focused on how do we end that stupid shit. Because I don't want to get paid in Federal Reserve notes anymore.
Yeah.
I'm tired of paying them.
See, like Peter Thiel's venture capital fund invested in Ripple, like literally at the start. So like, you know, you think maybe it was all like.
He's a tech guy. Elon is. He understands. Well, in PayPal, you have to understand how money moves and who is in control of the strings on all these friction points as you transfer money. So he understands the movement of money. He understands a bit about that. So naturally, it follows that, well, this is a good idea. Let's free it all up. Let's reduce fees. Let's decentralize the way of transacting. But the core problem that even they were up against is you have to be forced to use the dollar for everything you do. And when you introduce this competition of money to settling outside the system, you remove the value from it, it collapses the Ponzi scheme because they can't bring on new people anymore. And Trump organized it to where they can't play in the new system, banned them from issuing out a central bank digital currency. So what happens next? Hyperinflation. And they keep printing. As government shutdown, it's all over what? What reduction in spending have they really done? None. None. They shuffled money around. That's it. They kept the spending levels. So you're going to spend $1 trillion on the military budget. Well, we're spending $1 trillion now on the interest payment on our debt. It's a fucking scam. It's all it is. It's a big, gigantic scam. And we keep being forced to take it. Every time you take that Federal Reserve note, that is your chain. Every single time. It's only good for bills and survival. That's all I'm using it for. It's all anybody should use it for anyway. Especially in what Ludwig von Mises described as the crack up boom that leads to hyperinflationary collapse. Ludwig von Mises was basically the grandfather of Austrian economics. And he described what happened in the European nations when they started printing money, especially during World War I, tax slaughter. Asset prices started to rise because too many dollars were chasing too few goods and services. So prices rise, prices rise, prices rise, because they need to keep the war machine going. And what happens with weapons of war? It doesn't build a better tomorrow. No, it's just another way of destroying our labor. See, when Karl Marx first came around, he was dealing with the excesses of capitalism in the late 1800s. He saw up close in Europe, in Germany, what it was like with a corporate class, an emerging class. But his answer was, yes, you must take control of the means of production of money without anything backing it. This keeps the entire slave system going. So he didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Because power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That is Lord Acton. It's a maxim, it's an axiom of all human civilization. And once you decentralize that power, once you have issuers compete with other issuers for money, it's issuance, breaks the monopoly. So this is the task, man. This is the task. Start settling outside the system. When these laws go live, start demanding getting paid in it. Start demanding being able to pay our creditors in it, to take this value away. And the rest of the world's already doing it. We can't be last at the table.
Just to reiterate a little bit, crypto gives you the freedom to choose